first step to any great spinnaker takedown is to make sure that your boat is really clean. You really need to make sure that the tack line does not have any knots in it and that the spin halyard is also clean and doesn't have any knots. Tack line's the responsibility of the jib person. They should be drop coiling the tack line as you come into the mark, whenever they have a chance on the downwind. Spin halyard's a little bit easier when you're going downwind because there's not a bunch of line in the boat, but just make sure that's clear of any twists so it runs cleanly through the cleat when you uncleat it. The next step for any great takedown is to make sure that you have clear communication. The skipper should be the one calling the type of douse you're doing and then what direction you're going to be turning after the spinnaker's down. This just gives everyone on the boat a clear idea of what's going to happen when you take your spinnaker down. Then we really like to count down the douse as you come into the mark. Typically it's a count of 3, so you go 3, 2, 1, douse.
Windward douse. 3,
Yeah.
2, 1, douse.
So let's define a windward takedown. A windward takedown is when the spinnaker is pulled around the forestay and is doused on the windward side of the boat. You don't have to do a jibe and you're not taking the kite down on the leeward side of the boat. So let's start to look at the technique for having a great windward takedown. There's really 3 important people on the windward douse. The driver, the middle person who's dousing the kite, and the jib person who's uncleating the spinnaker halyard, and the jib tack line. So let's start with the driver. As the driver counts down the douse, they're going to want to start to drive the boat downwind. A really good point of reference for the driver is they're trying to get the spinnaker to rotate around the forestay. I like to think about trying to drive the patch on your spinnaker right into the hole on your boat. So you want to turn down pretty substantially. As the skipper starts the countdown, the middle person or the person dousing is going to want to jump into the middle of the boat and start to pull the slack out of the dowser line. This is a really important thing that a lot of people miss. You really want to make sure as soon as you uncleat the halyard that there is no slack in the dowser line. And this will help you have a much faster douse because you won't have to pull any slack out of the dowser line. The middle person can really jump into the middle of the boat and grab the dowser line and pull the slack out as soon as the skipper starts the countdown to the douse. The jib person, once they hear the countdown begin, needs to just get ready to uncleat the halyard and to uncleat the tack line. On a windward douse, the jib person will uncleat the tack line as soon as the skipper calls douse. So the countdown will go 3, 2, 1, douse, and on douse, the jib person will uncleat the halyard and just let it run freely. Sometimes it's good to keep a hand on the halyard, but you definitely don't want to keep any tension on the halyard with your hand. You just want to let it run freely through the spinnaker cleat. Once the kite is halfway down, you're going to want to uncleat the tack line. Another good reference point for this is right before there's a little bit of tension on the tack line from the dowser line pulling, that's when you want to uncleat the tack. A lot of people uncleat the tack line too early, and that will cause the tack line to either wrap around the pole or to potentially go around the bow of the boat. So that's something that the jib person really needs to focus on, is the timing of uncleating the tack. To reiterate, the most important aspect of a spinnaker douse is the skipper turning downwind. If you don't turn the boat downwind, it's going to be really hard for the crew to even get the kite into the boat. So turning the boat to a pretty close to dead downwind angle is going to make it a lot easier for the crew to get the kite into the boat. You really want to stay there at that dead downwind angle until the kite's 3/4 of the way in the hole. Then you can start to turn up and around the mark. Thank you for watching this Melges tutorial. For more information on new boats, new quantum sails, and parts for your Melges boat, please visit melges.com.